And this is my sister Mary, and we are starting a new series called Drunken Sisters Review. So for this first video, we are going to review a book that we both read called Mexican Gothic. Yeah.
That's what we're gonna do. So, and we're drinking right now. We've got Oliver's Cherry Moscato, which is wonderful. We're enjoying that as well. So we'll review everything we do perhaps today. We do not have real wine glasses though, because I'm not that fancy at my house.
But we do have these fancy Odell Brewing Company glasses because we like to drink.
It's true. All of the kinds. All of the kinds are good.
You.
I do. Yeah.
Yes.
And also we have Jack, who's made his way. As most quarantine cats have learned that the camera is different. This is Jack. He's 11-ish years old, and he is part dog, part cat, which means he comes when he's called, but he also hates you. So
he's also vocal, so he might also join in the review at some point.
It's true. Yeah, he cuddled with me while I read my book, so he's familiar as well. I guess we should talk about maybe if we have any real opinions on how we specifically landed on Mexican Gothic. I know it wasn't like something that we were like, oh, I had a huge conversation, but I'd seen the book cover, which I know you're not supposed to judge a book by cover, but it is a pretty spectacular cover. I wanted to branch out from your typical authors, as white American, we get pretty used to reading a lot of white authors and their perspectives, and this sounded like a really interesting take to me as somebody who's read a little bit of traditional Gothic.
Right.
Not as much as others, but, Jane Eyre is probably one, if not my favorite, probably my second favorite book. I wanted to give a different perspective a try.
And I wanted to say too that we're going to be picking this apart because I know how we are. Even though this is our first episode, I can pretty much guarantee we are going to be picking this apart.
It's also our general personalities.
Yes. So I just want to say I really enjoyed the book. Mm-hmm. I thought it was great. No matter what I say after this point, it's a good book. It's really well written, and I encourage people to read it.
One of the ways that I judge a book of how good the quality is for several days after, if you're still thinking about that book. There's books that I've read that you put it down and you're like, that was good, and you're done with it, and it never really enters you again. This book, I was really interested in it, and the way that the characters developed, and the way that the book ended also left enough in your head that you're not like distressed about it, but your brain is still lingering on the flavor of the book. And you may find that I also kind of think of books like food, which you'd think I was more of a foodie than I am because of that. But books to me, because there are books that are snacks, mm-hmm. there are books that are sandwiches, and there are books that are like Thanksgiving. You have a book that I've read many a snack book where you're like, well, that was fun, and you're done. and you might read that whole series of books, and every single one of them is a snack book where you're just like, it's like you ate a bag of potato chips in one sitting. And then other books where you're like, that was very good. It took me 8 months to read it, and I'm glad that I did it, but my tummy hurts, not why. And this one I'd say feels to me more like a really good sandwich. I know I'm weird, but it does. I felt satisfied and happy afterward. But it wasn't, I'm not going to write a thesis on it.
That analogy would have been so more fitting if we had done edibles instead of wine. But I get it. It makes sense, yes. And it made me think of, there's actually a term for those snack-like books because but I can't think of what the term is right now, and if I remember, or if you don't think of it while I'm talking about it, I'll put it up on the screen. But it's for, like, the cheap, quickly made books, and they did it a lot with YA books before YA became popular.
Right.
And they were series books a lot of times too.
Yeah.
And
it makes me think of a little bit like romance novels. Romance novels tend to be a bit of a snack book. They're usually not too intense, involved, and they're generally very formulaic. It also makes me think of when I read Janet Ivanovich's books, which were the Stubby Plum novels. They're fun, they're funny, but if you binge them, you find that formula pretty quickly. It's still entertaining to read, but it does gets a little bit to the point where you've had too much sugar. And so they're much better if you only read them as they're released.
Right.
You know, like even if you're gosh, they're like 23 years into this book series or something like that. So it's like you need to pace yourself. Don't read 3 a week.
But with that, I kind of feel that way with any type of series books. Like every series I read, no matter how good a quality it is, you can only read so many of them before you're like, okay, I need something different.
Yeah, and I think you're right. There comes a point, because even the best authors, even honestly, even if it's not a series, most authors have a certain formula. I mean, we're millennia into the written word, and tens of thousands of years into stories. So we tend to go to the same sorts of storylines over and over again, and so it's very normal, I think, to see that formula pop back up. It's when an author can take the formula and turn it into something really unique that I think is super interesting.
Which, going back to the book, it actually, because it brings in a different culture than you'll see a lot of times, and it's set in the 1950s, and it is a Gothic book, but it doesn't follow that exact formula the whole way through, in my opinion. I don't know if you felt that way.
Sure, I'm not a Gothic expert, so I'm going to roll with it, yeah.
I felt, especially the ending, because you talked about the ending really makes it not quite a typical Gothic, because it's a little more, and I'm not going to give it away, but it's a little more happily ever after than you typically find in a Gothic. It's not truly happily ever after.
And I was almost going to say a little different. I mean, it's so much of my idea of a Gothic, most of the time there's that little romantic interest that ends pretty well. I mean, if you look at Jane Eyre, it ends with a happily ever after. So, like, Jane Eyre is one where, spoilers for Jane Eyre, it's only 200 years old. There's, yes, he's blinded at the end. They went through this whole thing, and the house burned down. He's got this whole other estate that they get to live in, so it's fine. But it's sweet. They end up together. The love interests end up together. I've never read Wuthering Heights, honestly, because there comes a point where selfish people just piss me off.
Well, and I think that Jane Eyre is more of like a romantic Gothic, whereas this is more like the horror Gothic.
True. Good
so
point, yeah.
When I was comparing this, I was comparing it a lot to Southern Gothic type stories. Because a lot of what we're exposed to in movies and stuff like that are more of a, because the South has that old... American South is and you get
the idea of that old haunted.
You get that with the New England area too. I think there's a lot of Gothic stories and movies and everything set in New England as well.
New England has the fog, the South has the moss.
Yeah. It made me think of, and I can't remember what that movie is, like Skeleton Key or something like that, where it's that hoodoo one, and she goes to work in that house.
Yeah.
It made me think of that, and it had a lot of that feel, but it doesn't have, because it went horror. It is a horror. I will warn you on that one. Definitely a horror.
Yeah.
It was a little too happily ever after at the end for that.
Yeah, a little bit. And it brought in... are we going to do spoilers?
We're going to try not to do spoilers. But warning, some things we say may be a little spoiler-ish.
Yeah. I don't know how to entirely avoid that, because when you're talking about something, it's hard not to. But to me, in the end, you had that... Yes, they got a little happily ever after... but there was that hint.
Right, and that's why I didn't... It's not a full-on happily ever after.
Yeah.
But it could be.
Not everything is wrapped up in a pretty little package. There's definitely some questions at the end where you're like, well, what about X? And what happens if...
But it leaves the
someone,
possibility
you know,
that nothing is wrong and they really are having a happy
that everything
evolution.
is fine and it's
Whereas
gonna be okay.
I think a lot of certain Gothics have a little more of an edge of yeah, this person's possessed, or this person is actually
Right.
this, or this person, but the other characters don't know that, but that's the end.
Now I feel like we're just not educated enough in traditional Gothic to really compare in that sense.
Yeah, and we're also drinking, so, you know, the fact that we're having intelligent conversations while half a bottle in.
I don't know.
Actually, this is a little more than half a bottle because we started a different bottle
We
first.
did. Granted, though, I have many intelligent conversations when I'm drunk. I don't
Yes,
know what
I've
your
been
problem
told.
is.
Because I'm a motivational speaker when I'm drunk. Just ask my friends.
You know?
There are video and sound recordings of me giving motivational speeches.
I can have quite an existential conversation when I am way too trashed.
Yeah, I remember in high school being told, some guy looked at me and he goes, "You're a smart drunk." Okay.
I am either just the epitome of ignorance and stubbornness when I'm drunk, or I am enlightened and like a little guru. And there's not a lot of in between.
Yeah, for me, it's I talk about things in a very academic or intellectual sort of way.
I remember words I cannot remember.
Yes, yeah, my brain fog kind of disappears when I'm drunk. But that's also where the motivational comes from. So when I get like...
I was just thinking maybe that is why mommies love wine so much, is that baby brain fog finally clears. Because I'm sorry, if you're a new mom, that brain fog never really
mom,
goes
that's
away.
Yeah, I think that brain fog starts when you're pregnant.
It's
Don't
true.
go drinking when
No,
you're
I
pregnant.
actually remember the day that the brain fog hit.
I
remember that day.
I have fibro, so I have brain fog anyways. It's a million times worse now that I have a mom.
Yeah.
Well, now that I'm a mom. 9 years into being a mom.
Yeah. Now. It never gets better.
No. It only gets worse.
It gets different. I'll give you that. It's not...
So back to the book.
True story.
Okay, one thing I thought when I was reading this that we would both end up loving is the main character is an anthropologist.
Yes, I did. Yeah. We both have degrees in anthropology. Yeah. I was first. She followed in my footsteps. What can I say?
That's only because I got a background in theater first. So,
So she learned to sew first. I learned how to sew second. And I was more academically advanced than she was for a little while. Now
yeah,
she
for a
kicked
little
my
yeah.
butt.
Master's degree. I have to toot my own horn.
You know what, though? Just so you know, our
It's absolutely useless. All of it.
All of it. True story.
It makes it so we can work in an office, and that's about it.
We have a degree for customer service.
I had to work at McDonald's after I got my anthropology degree. That was my first job that would actually hire me.
I've worked in...
I was the epitome of I have a liberal arts degree. Would you like fries with that?
Yeah. You know what, though? I still love having my degree.
I do
It
too.
cost way too damn much money.
Not at all having to do with the book.
Not even a little bit. But if you expected that from drunk people, then you are on the wrong place.
So our reviews will probably have a lot of personal commentary about nothing having to do with whatever we're reviewing.
If you don't like that, then go away. But if you like
Don't go away. Watch our video, please.
Well, I mean, they gotta like us to like us. If they don't like us, then
Yeah, be nice. But watch our video, please.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna read the negative comments. Because why waste your time with that?
No, yeah.
I work retail. I'm not gonna add to that.
I'm actually having an issue where people on my art pages are leaving negative comments. So I block them, because who wants to deal with that crap?
There's no reason. If you don't like it, you don't have to be here. And that's fine. We're not making anyone stay.
Yeah, and if you're not giving me constructive criticism, I don't give a damn.
There's helpfulness, and there's being a jerk. And that's the dog. I gotta go. No, that could be the food. So we're gonna attempt to talk about the book. Again. So, what I actually really enjoyed about this book, in a lot of different ways, is the main character. She is for lack of a better word, or one that fits really well in the time frame, she's sassy. And even though I think in certain ways there's a little bit of a cliche with her in the fact that she doesn't know what she wants, she jumps around, which serves the story in certain ways by making her feel like she's discredited her own self to her family. So it makes sense. It's just, I think it's also kind of a little bit tropey.
Right.
For women do it too in our own stories. We do that all the time, where we kind of discredit the main character and discredit her to herself. And it's probably something that we do to ourselves as well, in reality. But at the same time, she's also really strong and powerful. So, she has these second thoughts, like, yeah, I know I'm kind of flaky, but she's also not really willing to sacrifice what she wants, and quite aware of herself and what she wants, which I think is really nice. She, when it comes to men and stuff like that, she knows that she's a player and she's cool with it. Like, she's like, I know what he is and what I am and what we are not together, and it's fine. It doesn't bother her. She's not trying to fit into particularly a conservative 1950s persona. She's trying to be herself, which I think is really a nice thing to see.
Yeah, I had mixed feelings because I don't remember if it actually technically passed the Bechdel test. If it did, it barely did. But at the same time, it fits with the story, because that's part of what causes a lot of the horror, actually. A lot of the discomfort, a lot of that underlying feeling of that she is stuck in a situation with these men, and that it's all her serving, them serving the men. That is the icky factor to a certain degree, which I get why they have it.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, part of me is like, I'd like a little more, something that didn't have to do with that part, though. But I get why it's there.
Yeah. And and that's the thing, is it's like, no, it doesn't necessarily fit in this sense of like she's 100% independent of her own and blah blah blah, but it wasn't an option.
Right.
In 1950s Mexico, 1950s anywhere in the world, it wasn't really an option.
Yeah, but that's something that I went back and forth on in my head, is that yes, the setting and the culture and everything that it's set in, it makes sense. But we've had these conversations before with things like books set in Victorian times and stuff like that, where they didn't pass the Bechdel test.
I know which book you're talking about, and it's very different.
Well, but at the same time,
very different.
And as far as this book goes, yes, it is different. But at the same time, her thoughts never went away from that subject either. Even when she would come around to be like, college but boys. College, but my marriage requirements.
Well,
college,
I think that's the thing, too, though. If you were a woman of that, particularly of that class in the 1950s, if your college education was very much tied up in your marriage prospects.
Right.
So the two could not separate. The book that you were thinking of, every thought was a romantic thought. It was not just the fact that...
That's because it is a YA romance, so it kind of made sense.
Still entertaining.
And still a strong female character. Yes.
Yes.
You just didn't like that she was so wrapped up in the guy.
Yeah. It was not the same. And so this one to me didn't feel in the same aspect where it wasn't. And in particular, it wasn't like, oh, I need to be with X because he's so cute. It was more like, well, Mom doesn't want me to go to college. She doesn't want me to get my advanced degrees. In particular, she doesn't want me to change subjects and get an advanced degrees because it's a waste of time, which is what almost every woman who would have been considering a master's and a PhD at the time would have had that same internal conversation. So that to me is the difference between it being like, but I love him so much and I want to be with him.
But she kind of started having that issue if he wants the creepy brother. Yeah.
She did start to rely on one character at one point, and you're just like, first of all, like, I have notes. I don't know if you guys can all see my wonderful little blue notes that I made in the book. Because I didn't write in it. That would have been sinful. But I put sticky notes. Where you're sitting there going, is he good? Is he bad? You know, and I'm not going to give that away whether he's good or bad. Though there is a turn where I knew that they were going to come to.
Right.
The switcheroo they were going to play. I figured that one might be coming a bit earlier on, and I thought they were going to pull it off, though.
I was kind of wondering, yeah, that was that one I was expecting. I was also wondering about, there was at least one other character that I was like, are they going to end up actually being good guys? I mean, they're brats, or like they're not a very nice person, but they might be good. No, that's not a good person. I don't want to say because I just gave away.
Well, there's only like 5 characters, so it's really hard. If you say anything, you're gonna give away which character it's gonna be. Is it so?
Wait, hold on. I'm counting how many characters there were. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the doctor, if you kind of count him, and the lady in the village.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's 9.
Maybe 9.
And then the dad.
Yeah, but the dad doesn't count.
I know. He only lived there.
Mexico City.
Yeah.
All right. I gave it away. Dad stays in Mexico City, guys. But so, you know, like I said, it's kind of like a really good sandwich. It's
technically there is another character, but you don't realize it's a character.
Yeah. It's true. You don't realize that. I mean, technically there's like, okay. No, all right, we're getting too technical on what's considered a character at this point.
They were people with emotions and had thoughts at some point.
Apparently at all points, actually.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, that when she started talking to the one, yeah.
They continued to have thoughts.
Even though she wasn't really there, and she even says that.
So I guess we should give a little bit of a brief overview more on what the blurb is, too. You know what I mean? Just so they have an idea.
Oh, what
it's not just that. Yeah. So.
Excuse me.
I forgot the main character's name.
We're a bottle and a half in. Expect no burps.
Feel it.
I know. I feel like I haven't had
But wine is that way. I've always said wine is fine. You just get real talkative, and
we're getting into the tequila next.
Yeah. You don't realize that you're drunk on wine until you stand up, and you're like, wow. My legs feel funny.
I usually have to be 2 more bottles in before I have that. My legs feel funny and she with wine.
Yeah, well, the nice thing for me is I'm a cheap drunk on wine and beer.
I'm not a cheap drunk on wine. I'm a cheap drunk on hard alcohol.
No, see, I am not a cheap drunk on hard alcohol, and I am a dangerous drunk on hard alcohol because it takes like an hour for it to hit in.
Be cheap because you pay a lot more for one cup.
That's true.
Yeah. So even I'm okay if I'm out drinking and I have a couple shots. That's enough for me. If I'm drinking to get drunk, though, I'm scary.
Yeah.
She can attest.
I've seen it once.
And nobody had believed me.
Really hungover.
I stopped counting after 16.
Most people stop counting after 16. So
we're talking about the book.
And the basic plotline of the book, the initial plotline at least, is that Noemi, the main character, and I'm sorry if I don't pronounce that correctly, it's an unfamiliar name for me. She, her father gets her to go visit her cousin, who was married rather quickly to a man that the family was not very familiar with, and her cousin has written a very mysterious and very confusing letter that has him worried. So he sends Noemi to visit her, and Noemi has married an English man whose family has migrated to Mexico.
Was it English? I thought they were Spanish.
They were English.
Oh. Okay, I apparently...
Anna didn't read the book.
I read it, but we read it really fast to make the video, so...
Yeah, that's why I made sticky notes, because I also know that if I read something very fast, then I forget. I enjoy it very much at the moment, and then by 2 days later, I'm like, I don't remember that part. I read the 4th Harry Potter in like 8 hours.
I probably did too.
Yeah, and then like a year later, Jess, my best friend, asked me, or we were watching the movies or something, or before the movie came out, and she was like, yeah, and Cedric, or whatever his name, I don't even remember what his name.
Yes,
Sorry, Harry Potter.
Cedric, it is Cedric.
Dies, and I'm like, somebody died? And she's like, did you read the book? And I'm like, yes.
He really wasn't that important.
It wasn't vital to the story at all. Yeah.
If he hadn't died, maybe he wouldn't have gone on to become a sparkly vampire, but...
Wow, that's a better world.
Please don't kill us for making fun of I know a lot of people who watch these book reviews are big Twilight fans.
Look, you can enjoy any book, any story that you like. It's totally fine. I have read some stuff that I guiltily love, and I still guiltily love it. I read all of the Twilight books. Mm-hmm. And
Me too.
I do feel guilty about it.
I feel like I wasted my time because I was expecting something else and it never came.
Yeah. I started reading and realized 100 and some odd pages that we hadn't gotten past character development in the first book. And then it was just a shock and awe treatment for the rest of the series.
But we're not supposed to be reviewing Twilight.
No.
We're just saying.
We're not.
Enjoy what you enjoy.
Right.
We do not judge you for that. We do not necessarily agree.
We do not have to agree, and that's fine. That's why there are many, many books out in the world. This one's a good one, though.
Yes, we definitely encourage this one.
Yeah.
It's very well written, very good story. If you like horror, it definitely has more of that psychological horror, but he's definitely really creepy with certain parts.
Yeah.
I will say, if you have issues with sexual assault or anything like that, and one thing that made me kind of icky is I hate eugenics because I know the background behind it, having studied anthropology. Mm-hmm. So eugenics plays an important part in this.
You should hate eugenics.
Yeah, everybody should hate eugenics.
You should hate eugenics.
But like for some people, it's more of a theoretical hatred, and for me, it kind of really just makes my stomach hurt.
It should be a visceral hatred, and if you don't know why, read up on it. It's nasty.
And she does it's not that she's proponent for eugenics. It is part of what makes this a horror. Mm-hmm. So just a warning: there are things in here that could trigger some people. So I would assume that if you have triggers, you are already aware to avoid things that are horror-based.
Yeah.
Because they try to...
horror picks up your triggers. That's kind of the genre vibe. But
I think it handles it really well. It's not about being gross and being disgusting and being in your face like some horror is. It's meant to make you think. Yeah. It's meant to get into your brain and kind of mess with you a little.
Yeah, and for me, I do tend to be a little bit more susceptible, oddly enough, in my older years than in my younger years to...
it's having kids. I can't watch...
But
for me it is. I can't watch horror or crime shows anymore because then I'm like, those poor kids. Poor kids. What if they were my kids?
Well, that's why I can't watch the criminal shows anymore. But like horror, I don't know what happens, but my brain goes too crazy and I have nightmares. So this did not cause nightmares, which I was happy about, but it was very entertaining and still edge of your seat. Like it wasn't something that I was like, I put it away and I was like, well, the light will be on tonight. It was definitely like, well, I did not enjoy that thought. Good night. And put it down. I did not like mold before. Really don't like mold now.
That shows up really early, so we're not giving too much away. The mold's creepy. It remains creepy.
I don't know.
I think I've said it better. I think we've gone into things without giving away spoilers. That was the big thing. I think we could go into more.
Yeah, I think with this book in particular, I think there are certain books where you can come out and say like a little bit more and give a little bit more detail. But with this book in particular, since there's only like 7 functional characters,
I'll agree to that.
If you mention anything about any of them, it gives away an aspect of the story. If you
and that speaks to how well written it is that everything has a purpose.
Right.
Everything that happens, every character that exists in there, they're not just there as filler. They have a purpose. They play into the plot. They play into the plot twists. And so it's really hard to discuss it without giving anything away.
Right. Which probably doesn't make this as entertaining as it could be. But the other fun thing about this book, too, is it doesn't waste time.
Yeah.
And that says a lot. There's a lot of books that they give you a lot of background. Like, the first part of this book where you kind of understand her, that's what it is. It's about understanding her father, her family, and what she's doing and why. And it's very straightforward and it's expressive. So it's not wasting time getting background story or extra information that literally has nothing to do with anything that you're just kind of wading through, trying to nitpick. Every detail in the story has a part.
The only one, I mean, like he plays an important role in a certain way, but don't get attached to the guy dressed as a horse in the first 5 pages of the book. He's nobody, except for
That's true.
giving you a little insight into the character.
Him being an actual person in the book.
It's kind of weird that it starts out from his point of view when he really plays no point, but he gives you a little bit of insight into the main character.
Right. Yep.
So he's not completely worthless, but don't expect him to be of any importance beyond that.
No, exactly.
He ceases to exist really quick. Like, not he dies, he just ceases to be of importance. Yeah.
And he plays sort of a foil to who comes later.
Yeah.
And
so he's not pointless altogether.
No, but honestly, nothing in the book is pointless altogether. Everything in the book has a purpose and plays a role in some fashion or another to the plot line or to who the character is. And so I enjoyed it. I give it high props.
Yeah, I don't know about stars. I would give it at least 4 out of 5, if not 5 out of 5. It's a good book.
Yeah, it's a very good book. Very entertaining. Highly recommended.
Yes. So, well, that is our first review. Will be interesting to see how it looks after I edit it. And hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you go out and read the book, because as we said, it's a great book and everybody should go out and read it if you are even somewhat interested in horror, fantasy, Gothic, burping, sorry. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you will come back for more videos. I'm planning on posting these on Fridays. We're going to record some more, so if in our next couple of videos we are dressed like this, that's because we don't live super close together and we don't want to end up in AA.
True story, yeah. But we are getting the tequila for the next one.
Yes,
so hopefully it won't be too sloppy.
Yeah, hopefully you'll understand what we're saying in the next one. But yeah, so come back, follow us, hit the like button on this video, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more of it. And yeah, and maybe we'll eventually make a Facebook page or something, or whatever.
Figure this thing out one day.
Yeah, we're just testing the waters right now. If there's something more you'd like to see, if there's something you'd like to see us review, let us know.
Polite, constructive criticism is always welcome.
Yes.
If you just don't like us and want to say nasty things, figure out why you don't like yourself. And move on.
Yes, please do. Sorry you're in such a bad place. Don't bring it here.
There's therapy for that.
Yes. So, yeah. So, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in the next video where we'll be even more sloshed.
Yes, but, we'll be talking about Winona Earp, so if you're a fan of that,
yes,
which you should be, just saying, in my humble opinion, watch it.
Not that she's just given away the entire review of the...
There's more. I promise.
Hopefully.
Maybe. Depends on how much tequila hits.
Alright, we'll see ya. Bye. Glass number 4. Should have brought 2 bottles. She thought I was joking about being able to drink a whole bottle to myself. Eat the food. I will pause the video.